Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Kihos, job coach and agency linkage specialist from Central Valley Charter Schools, and you're listening to Your Transition Podcast. Today, as you can tell, we're bringing you a special fireside chat. We're in the Central Valley cabin. We won't tell you where it is, but it's somewhere that's very cozy, very comfortable, and we're going to tackle the topic of test anxiety. We're going to look at that. So I'm joined by my co-host, Blake. How are you doing, Blake?
I'm doing well, Jonathan. Thank you. I just have to say that I'm especially excited about our topic and what we're going to talk about today, because I myself tend to struggle with test anxiety.
Me too. Yeah, I do. It's hard to be bad when you're in a cabin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Wish I could take all my tests here.
Yeah.
But yeah, thankfully for us, we have our very own Dr. Mitch Casados here. He was a part of our February podcast, which you all should totally check out if you haven't already. And he's here today to discuss test anxiety. He has such a wealth of knowledge around tackling this. And I don't know about you, Jonathan, but I'm ready and I'm excited to learn some tips and hear all about Dr. Mitch's perspective today.
Me too, Blake. So recently I went back to school, and admittedly, I'm one of those nervous test takers. I put all this pressure on myself. In fact, I was laying in bed registering for a test that I have to take. I was just registering. I wasn't even taking the test. I started to feel short of breath. I felt sweaty. My hands started to get clammy, etc. This was just me registering for the test. So, Dr. Mitch, welcome to Fireside Chat today. Can you help us?
Yes, it is my pleasure to help put out the fires of this test anxiety, and it's great to be back with both of you, Jonathan and Blake. My pleasure to be here.
I know you're going to provide a lot of help, but before we get into that, for those listeners who this is their first podcast and they're listening to, and they don't know who Dr. Mitch is, can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Oh yes, Dr. Mitch. It seems like I'm going by through here. I am a licensed psychologist, and I work putting together school-based mental health programs, and I'm working with you guys here to provide some tier 3 social emotional learning services. These are services for students one-on-one who might need a little help just getting some of these competencies, the social emotional functioning a little bit higher. It's a skill. And so I work with graduate students who are in doctoral programs to come in and work with kids at schools to help build some of those skills. And it is my pleasure to be here.
Great to have you, and thank you for sharing. So we just want to jump right in. And so test anxiety, 'tis the season, right? Can you briefly just describe some common symptoms of test anxiety?
Yeah, Jonathan, you mentioned some of them already here, getting ready for your school admission, and that's that kind of clammy hands and the anxious thinking and some of the heartbeat going quick, a general feeling of nervousness. And what that is it's your body triggering a very, very old system called the fight or flight system. And it was designed to help you get away from a lion chasing you, a bear about to grab you. It was your signal that, holy smoke, something's wrong, get out of here. It is really the triggering of that system, which is a great system, helped us survive. But I don't know about you, probably haven't been chased by a lion recently. And so that system is now being triggered for things that probably it was never designed for, like taking tests, for example.
Awesome. So if I may, Jonathan, I've got a follow-up question for Dr. Mitch.
Yeah.
So what is anxiety for? So you kind of touched on it, like the is flight or flight. But what does it signal? I guess maybe we should have started with that.
That's a good question, good clarification. It's signaling that your mind thinks that something bad is about to happen and you need to get out of there quick. Like, I need to call in sick instead of taking this test. Somebody pull the fire alarm so this test stops. But it's really the thought. It's anticipating something that bad is going to happen. It's thoughts that something bad is going to happen in the future. That's what anxiety is.
Thank you for sharing, Blake. That was a great question. And thank you, Dr. Mitch. Can you tell us about the 3 stages of test anxiety, before, during, and after? What can one expect to feel at each of the stages? And then anything else you feel you feel that is important or that you would like to elaborate on? The floor is pretty much yours.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. Sometimes people think of these anxious events as the event itself, getting on a roller coaster, for example, or in this case, taking a test. But, before you get on the roller coaster, you're in the line of the roller coaster. Before you're in the line of the roller coaster, you're driving to the theme park. And then there's the actual roller coaster ride, and then you're done with the roller coaster. So it's just like that for test anxiety. So the beginning stages of kind of before the test, what those symptoms tend to be is that fear of I'm going to fail this thing. That's typically the fear. I'm not prepared enough to do this. I've not passed them in the past. I'm not good enough to pass this. These are all false ideas. All that is your mind trying to help you avoid taking the test. Just like if you saw the lion, your mind would say, get out of there. It's trying to find reasons for you not to go take that test. So you're going to be anticipating failure typically. But since it's a future event, there's a lot of things that could happen in the future. If you get on a roller coaster, you might be afraid it's going to fall to pieces and you're going to get crushed by it. But another outcome is that you have a great time. You don't know what the future is going to hold. Your brain's afraid of the worst things, but success is also possible and a great time is also possible. And you passing this test with flying colors, also possible. So the first thing is the stage of anticipating failure and then avoiding it. You just have to tell yourself again, hey, I might actually pass this thing and might do it pretty well. That's also possible. The other thing is preparing for that. If you feel like you're going to fail it, the best way to not feel like you're going to fail it is to be absolutely prepared. So, study the material. It's right in front of you. Most of the questions, the teachers really help you figure out what's going to be on the test. Sometimes they do a test review, but they do the best job to tell you what's going to be on the test. So the best thing you can do to avoid the fear of, oh no, I'm going to fail it, is to have evidence that you can pass it, which, hey, I know this stuff actually. Get plenty of sleep the night before, eat a good breakfast, be prepared. That's what you can do before the test. Now, right before you take the test, which we consider during the test, you want to kind of practice relaxation a little bit, okay? Because your anxiety system is automatically triggered by your body, it's kind of like an on and off switch. It can't be kind of on. It's either on or off. So one of the things you can do to help turn it off is to breathe. In fact, the Navy SEALs do this. They call it box breathing, but it's very useful. I call it the big 5 breathing. And what you do is you breathe in real deep for 5 seconds in through your nose, push your stomach out to get as much air as you can, hold it for 5 seconds, push it out of your mouth for 5 seconds, squeeze your stomach real tight, get it all out 5 times in a row. And try that 5 times a day, even when you're not nervous. That keeps that system from not getting triggered too easily. Secondly, close your eyes. Picture yourself being successful. What would it look like? Picture yourself on that last question, getting it right, jumping out of there with confidence. Your mind will practice success just like it will practice failure. So push success in there and picture yourself doing it. Finally, reflect on the idea that you've taken tests before and you've probably done better than you thought you were going to. And if it's multiple choice, guess what? 3 of those questions are wrong. So instead of looking for the right answer, which there's one of, look for the wrong answer. You have 3 chances of getting the wrong answer out of the way. That's 3 successes. So it's another way to look at each of the questions. And then finally, after the test, ask yourself, was it really that bad? And secondly, what could you have done better to prepare to begin with? And that will start the cycle all over again. I think that's a great strategy to overcome any test anxiety, but preparation is the number one thing you can do because it's not a trick of the mind. It's truly based on your ability and your success. Like you really will be successful if you prepare.
Great insight. Just such a wealth of knowledge. You actually answered my next question, which was walking us nervous test takers through the anxiety and giving us some words of encouragement or strategies. But I know Blake has some more questions or follow-up comments. Blake, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Mitch, I really like that box breathing. I practice that in some things, and like you see that sometimes in like yoga as well, which is really nice. I do that sometimes. It's really weirdly effective. It's not one of those things that I was kind of skeptical at first, but you try it and it's very calming. I really like that.
I do it at stop signs when I drive. When I get to a stop sign, a red light, I'll pop it on there because why not?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. As we kind of wrap up today, for our parents who maybe don't know quite how they can support their students, or maybe they want to, but they don't really know what kind of resources are available. Could you maybe help us figure out where they should go from there?
Definitely. I think that the first thing for a parent, me being one myself, what's important for them first and foremost is our inclination as parents is typically to protect our kids from things that don't feel good. The best thing you could do for anxiety, you could take this one to the bank. It's in all the psychological literature, but is to actually expose them to what they're afraid of and help them tolerate their discomfort and learn how to get past it. As a parent, that's the single best way to keep them not anxious. It's for them to say, you know what, I know how to do this. I can do it. So try not to protect them too hard because you will actually make them more nervous later. So, really kind of look at it as an opportunity to build strength and confidence rather than, I don't want my child to feel uncomfortable. And there's limits to that. Obviously, you don't want to put someone through, absolute dread, but a little anxiety is good for you to learn how to manage. So I would say that being number one. And then for parents, share your experience with the kids. Hey, you remember taking these tests, remember? Let them know, hey, I got through it too. And I remember being nervous, and help them reiterate that preparation part. But don't let them escape. That's the number one thing when it comes to any anxieties. Don't let them at it. That's important.
I love that. Facing your fears. And I feel like that you've given us so many tools to put in our toolbox. So thank you for those tips and those insights. And just so everyone knows, we're going to be including some links to resources in the description. Recently, I believe it was in the Weekly Buzz, we had some tips for nervous test takers, and we're going to be including those in the description. I also want to point out that it's important to share today's podcast with fellow classmates. You never know how it's going to help someone. Use the resources at your fingertips. And again, I just want to thank our listeners, Dr. Mitch, for just being here today. And we hope that you've left this episode empowered, willing, and we know that you're going to be able to tackle those upcoming tests. And so we're heading into test season, and so you're going to tackle that anxiety. And so thanks for tuning in today. That concludes your PACE podcast, and we will catch you on the next one.